Hello and welcome to Call of Discovery, the podcast where we invite you on a journey into the Crucible for a weekly or fortnightly celebration of all things KeyForge, its community, and of course, the excitement of discovery. I am still somehow here, 2 years on. It's our birthday. Gonna party like it's our birthday. I'm Ed, and I'm joined, as always, by the sweatiest of all of the Archons. It's Sweaty Zach.
Happy to be here, Ed. As usual, yes, our 2-year anniversary was August 20th, 2021, 2 years after you launched episode 0. And of course, I came on just a little bit after that. And of course, so a funny thing about when I came on later and what today's episode is. So today, of course, as you've seen from the title, is our Worlds Collide Setrospective, where we've put together a bunch of exquisite card categories, and our Patreons have voted on different cards to win different categories from Worlds Collide. So we'll talk about the effect that the set has had, looking back on it with the benefit of quite a bit of time. And Ed, do you remember what my topic was when I was a guest back in episode, I want to say 13 or so?
Zach, why don't you share with everyone what that topic was?
It was Worlds Collide. We were actually going through all of the spoiled cards, going house by house, looking through all the spoiled cards, and now we're at our Worlds Collide Setrospective. So right at our 2-year anniversary.
Those must have been some hot takes because I haven't been able to get rid of you since.
I'm not sure I got hired quite on the merit of my Worlds Collide hot takes. But now I'll actually have to, once we record this, I'll have to go back and listen to that one and see what we said about the set and see how kind time has been to those takes.
Infernus, awful card. Awful card.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I probably just derided that thing into the ground.
Yeah, you were really pro Brobnar from what I remember.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sweaty Zach's a joke, but not that much of a joke.
Yes. Yes, dear listeners, today is the episode that I think we very much enjoy as hosts, where we take a look back with the benefit of hindsight and say, what does that set look like? What does it look like in today's world, and how does it fare? Originally, this was sort of 18 months on so that we could look back at it at the same time as it moved out of rotation in Vault Warrior, which was 3 sets long. But Vault Warrior hasn't to date happened. We're hoping it will in post-apocalyptic life, but you know, we'll hold our breath for that one. So in the meantime, we still have this rather lovely Setrospective to look forward to. And what we've done is we've done the hard bit. We've cut down the huge list of cards and decided against our illustrious award categories for very real Call of Discovery for very real Call of Discovery Compass Awards. I'm holding one in my hand right now. It's
very real.
It's
very real compass.
Real, very weighty. You know, beautiful old compass. We've cut down the list of cards and we've given those to our Patreons and said, which one do you think wins this award? And well, we've had quite a positive response from that, haven't we, Zach?
We have. We've had quite at least, it looks like half of our Patreons jumping in to vote here, emoji based voting, and we've got a couple blowouts where a card got maybe all the votes or all but one vote, and then a couple of much closer races in a few other categories. So I'm really excited to dive into the results of our little sample size of our lovely subscribers.
Indeed. So without further ado, Zach, should we talk a little bit about the background of Worlds Collide and what it is? Because when I remember Worlds Collide, I actually stayed up for the announcement of Worlds Collide. It was back in the day when real events with real people in person were occurring frequently. And it was at Gen Con 2018, 2019?
2019. Must have been 2019.
Gen Con 2019. And Fantasy Flight did this amazing in-flight report. So they all got together, they got a big audience, and it was quite an affair. And when they announced KeyForge, everyone cheered, which obviously I did at home as well. and they said, "Hey, there's going to be 2 new houses into the Crucible, and the first one is Roman dinosaurs." And everyone was like, "What?" And then everyone slowly dawned on people. I think everyone realized, wow, this is one thing I never knew I wanted, but I definitely did want, and it's really cool, and I'm here for it. And the other
Mm-hmm.
one, the Star Alliance, being a very kind of positive 1960s Star Trek vibe, but
Mm-hmm.
also taking the Mickey out of itself at the same time, which we love. So 2 houses that are now integral to the Crucible were announced that day for a November 2019 release. So, Zach, what were your first impressions of Worlds Collide? Did you think dead game, or did you think, hey, I want to get my teeth into this?
All the teeth I wanted in Worlds Collide. So the new houses, I was reacting like many of us other hardcore fans were, in that I loved the ideas of the new houses and that we were getting 2 at once in the third set. Um, and as the set launched and we started to play with it, Worlds Collide is very special to me, because as we started to play with it, that is where the true rock paper scissors matchups are really important in KeyForge. That's where that really blossomed for me. I think Call of the Archons and Age of Ascension, uh, having been released in that order, Age of Ascension, well, it is a set I adore. In many ways, it does feel, when you're playing it, a bit underpowered compared to Call of the Archons. So it was easy to play Coda, be like, okay, I like this game. Play Age of Ascension and go, well, I'm not crazy about this set. And I think maybe the game maybe lost some people off of that, which, I mean, they were trying something new. That's kind of to be expected. But when Worlds Collide came out, what happened was that the dominant Call of the Archons decks, with Stealing and Amber Rushing, with Untamed and Shadows and all of this sort of thing, all of a sudden the counters to those decks were printed at common, and the decks had plenty of their own very new threats to throw at decks. And I think it really started to turn KeyForge into the big rock paper scissors, your matchup really matters kind of game that we see today. I think that's where the game really matured, and I think that's the momentum that's gonna hopefully just keep taking it down the field. The moment that solidified for me that Worlds Collide was here to stay, and that it was well designed and showed that there was a long-term big picture vision for how the sets fit together, was the Archon Vault Tour at PAX in Philadelphia, here in the United States, when Justin of Tabletop Royale won the Archon tournament with Light Tasker Market Sheriff, with a whole bunch of archiving and eddies and some Worlds Collide. Just Worlds Collide shenanigans, and just took apart Rush decks on stream. Watching that game is where I went, this game is here to stay. There really is rock, paper, scissors, like the strategic depth of this game, both in how you play it and the decks you pick. That strategic depth just got 5 times deeper with the release of this set. So I love Worlds Collide, because for me it proved to me that I'm going to love KeyForge for a long time.
Awesome. Yeah, it really was the biggest change we'd had in the game since it released. I certainly feel that Kota said, hey, here is KeyForge. This is what it is. Get used to it. Age of Ascension kind of said, here's a little bit more to get your teeth into, more of the same, a few more mechanics. And then Worlds Collide said, and this is what the future can look like. And of course, we let go 2 houses as well. So we lost Sanctum for a little while at least. They're back now. And we lost Mars. And Zach, I'm not negative very often on this podcast, but I have to I think I have to admit something finally to our listeners on episode 86 or whatever this is, that Zach, I don't like House Mars. I really don't like them.
You've kept that a secret from the public for a very long time.
I have, and I've been very glad that they have not been part of this game for the past 3 sets. Um,
My apologies to Lord of Winter. It was nice having you as a Patreon subscriber for so long. Glory be to Mars. But I know, in good conscience, Alex can no longer support this podcast uh, after that dramatic, terrible reveal, Ed. So that's on
I've
you.
come out as a
That's on you.
mild skeptic. It's just a little green men thing. It's too much. They don't fit. Why are they there?
I am
Anyway.
I am I am in the Discord for Lord of Winter's KeyForge team, and the symbol is literally Mind Warper, the the Mars creature from Call of the Archon. So I think you're going to have a bit of a rough time.
I value all of our Patreons equally, and they're perfectly entitled to their own opinions, which are all valid in their own way.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. So I really liked this set because we were losing the one house that I wasn't a big fan of, and we were getting two more that I thought were absolutely awesome, to be honest. And should we talk a little bit about what those new houses entailed? Firstly, the Saurians brought a very different way of playing. They were Roman dinosaurs that were looking to exalt themselves, looking to show off their prowess at diplomacy, and bringing that across into mechanics. What I really loved was you just had this feeling of these dinosaurs that really fancied themselves. And so they got a little bit greedy, and so that they were hoarding amber on themselves. So instead of capture, where you take amber from the other side, which is what we'd had up until that point, where if you have amber on your opponent's creatures, it always goes back to you. What we now had is if you had amber on your opponent's creatures, they might be able to use it to do different things. They might be able to use
That's right.
that amber to forge, or they might be able to take it off the board, and it might not be coming back to you. Similarly, you might have your own creatures, and it was almost used as a risk reward, where you've got an exalt, and is it worth me sticking an amber on my own creature? What can the opponent do? Are they going to take that? Is it worth it for the effect that I get? It made some really interesting decisions out of a new house, and that depth, I think, was very, very welcome after the more simple play it from your hand of the Kota days.
Yeah, of course. I think Exalt was a lot of fun. They definitely pushed the limits, or maybe past the limits of how powerful you of a reward you get for exalting. Right, things like Questor Jarda, where you reap, you exalt Questor Jarda if you want to, and then if you exalt Questor Jarda, you get an amber. So it's basically saying, I'm going to get an amber immediately, and you maybe get one later. And you've got plenty of ways to protect that exalted amber, right? So definitely a lot of fun. I do love the design space that Saurians have continued to occupy, even as their power level has come back down to normal in future sets, a very, very normal house. But I love the space they occupy, their theme, and all of their references to kind of classic Greco-Roman literature and some old classics there is just an awful lot of fun. And then, of course, the other house we got was Star Alliance, very much a direct imitation of Star Trek. Nobody can deny that. And of course, there's so many Star Trek references all over Star Alliance cards that it's just blatant, and it's fun, and it's an appreciation of a whimsical, kind of forward-looking, optimistic future that Star Trek often was in KeyForge, right? And that was reflected in the mechanics. What Star Alliance really brought was, hey, if you're a card from another house, like, I want to synergize with you, you've got, Kirby letting you play cards from out of house. You've got things that let you use cards from other houses. And then, of course, so they had a lot of creatures with powerful effects. It was the introduction of their big play, fight, reap effects. Usually you would just get a play or a fight or a reap. But with these, it was play, fight, reap, so that you were getting value as soon as they hit the board, and then on future turns if they survive. And mostly balanced out just by being a bit smaller, right? You've got 2s and 3s in abundance, a few 4s, and the 4s are really the beefy ones and in the Star Alliance. And they also come with all the gear that you think of, right? The silly sci-fi gear from the Star Trek sort of universe in the form of upgrades. And if you had told me before seeing Star Alliance and Worlds Collide that there was going to be a house that part of their identity was based around upgrades, and it was actually going to be a ton of fun, I would have been like, but upgrades aren't fun. I don't really like them. I mean, not that I dislike them, they're just not impressive to me. But the creativity and fun and the synergy within the upgrades for Star Alliance has been an awful lot of fun, from the blasters to Light of the Archons to just so many different things. So they're an awfully fun house that just wants the rest of your deck to be even better, to be even better themselves.
They are almost the antithesis of Mars, and I think that's
Yes,
probably one of the
yes,
reasons why I
very
like them.
much
But
so.
I also appreciate that from a design perspective and from a flavor perspective, that that is exactly what you would expect from the Grand Star Alliance. The other thing that interests me there is that I think it's oft said now that Star Alliance do for your board what Logos do for your hand. So Logos let you get value, let you get efficiency out of your deck, out of your hand, let you get those cards into your hand, and then the Star Alliance say, hey, we'll take it from here when that gets on the board. And of course, board is much more important with Worlds Collide than it ever had been before for Age of Ascension or Call of the Archons. Board suddenly was becoming a crowded place where everyone wanted to be, and that added more RAM to the game, I'd say, Zach.
Hmm.
In terms of, this is a phrase often used by the Team Covenant, and RAM describing the number of things that you need to think about at the same time whilst you're playing a game. And Worlds Collide definitely ramped that up, combining board presence with game warping effects, a few more choices for you, and just all sorts of things really, really going on there. Zach, we have not yet spoken about the gifts from the future, the presents from future KeyForge sets. That is the
Anomalies.
anomalies. Yes.
Yes. I think those were a triumph for just excitement and collectability. In short, some of them, of course, quite powerful, like lateral shift. Some of them maybe a bit more of a head scratcher about how they can be useful, like Nizak the Forgotten. But they were so cool. They were so exciting. They were rare enough to actually really be rare, where it's tough to find or acquire a deck, with an anomaly in it. And they were just so exciting, introducing some new mechanics like graft, putting an action card face up under a card and then getting to trigger that playability off of the action card. Just they were a ton of fun. A ton of fun.
Absolutely. And we should say at this point, for anyone listening that didn't really play Worlds Collide, maybe it's years in the future for you listening, anomalies were a first look at future sets, potential future sets, and
Yes,
potential
potential.
future houses. So it was the design team flexing their muscles, including a few cards from sets yet to come and sets potentially yet to come as well. The multiverse of KeyForge, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. They admitted that it was certainly possible futures, and we heard more about that when we interviewed Aaron Houghton, one of the KeyForge designers, about Dark Tidings, and he said they had actually gotten. This actually surprised me a little bit. They got a little further downfield with how the tide would work, then looked back at Valocanth, one of the anomalies from Worlds Collide, and went, "Oh wait, we need to make sure this is consistent with Valocanth." So Valocanth actually helped them kind of lock in what the tie would be for Dark Tidings, which is just fascinating, fascinating. One of my favorite little glimpses in the future, actually two of my favorite, I'll say. One is the haunted mechanic off of the Grim Reaper, which is if you have 10 or more cards in your discard pile, you are haunted. It's basically an on-off thing, which was a lot of fun. And then the Grim Reaper would come into play ready if you were haunted. And then the Red Baron had two chances to gain additional abilities based on how many, like, if you or your opponent had your red keys forged, which is an awful lot of fun to finally actually dive into using the colors of the keys, which I really look forward to when that's even bigger.
I would not be surprised if we see the Red Baron and friends in the next set
Mm.
following. Yeah, we know now the Red Baron is probably House Skyborn, and
Mm.
it
Hmm.
would be very interesting. I think it would be very compelling, going from Dark Tidings to the skies above the Crucible, and seeing what's happening all the way up there. But without further ado, Zach, shall we dive into some of our awards?
Yes, let's do it. Oh, I'm very excited about these. Lots of great stuff to talk about in Worlds Collide.
Mm.
So many cool, good, interesting, or hilariously narrow cards.
Yeah, and the first category, because we like to court controversy here on Call of Discovery. That's not true. We actually like to do the opposite. But we are going to be looking at the most infamous card from Worlds Collide. This will be, I can confirm, the first card to win a Call of Discovery Golden Compass. Yes, it's golden now.
Oh,
For Worlds Collide. So, what are our contenders for most infamous card, Zach?
our contenders for most infamous card from Worlds Collide are from House Dis, Infernus, from House Saurian, Tribute, and from House Grand Star Alliance, Quixel Stone. Now, my apologies to the emotional damage caused just by me repeating the names of those cards into your ears, because all of them can be terrifying.
They certainly can. And can we go from the? Let's go from the bottom up there. Quixelstone. This was one of our first properly game warping artifacts. It is an item artifact, and it says if a player has more creatures in play than their opponent, they cannot play creatures. It basically says, hey, opponent, you had this game plan thing. I think you need to rethink that because we're going
Mm-hmm.
all in.
Mm-hmm. And Quixelstone, very skill testing of a card because, of course, it's not going to make your deck lower on creatures and have more action cards. You might actually never want to play Quixelstone in a deck that it's in. It could easily shoot you in the foot.
It certainly could. It certainly could. It's like Fangtooth Cavern in that respect. You've got to know when to play it. You've got to know when to not play it. It could almost be tempting for some people, I think, to play it because it's got that juicy amber pip on it, and you might really need that pip of amber. But do you need it? And is it worth it 5 turns down the line? And of course, at this point, not that many decks had artifact control either. Artifact control was still quite a luxury. So when you had a Quixelstone down on the board, it was quite often there for the game.
That's true. That's true. Now, this set did introduce Hawk in Shadows at common, just blowing up an artifact pretty easily. But yes, that was a pretty big influx just in Hawk of direct artifact removal outside of Poltergeist from the previous two sets and some similar cards.
But it's a fun card and it warps the game in a very KeyForge and very interesting way, rather than the frustration caused by previous game warping cards such as Heart of the Forest, which for
Mm-hmm.
you and your opponent was quite often not worth the hassle.
Quite often. Quite often.
So, what's our next card, Zach?
Our next card is from House Saurian, Tribute, which has an
Mm.
amber pip, and it reads the most powerful friendly creature captures 2. You may exalt that creature to repeat the preceding effect. So what that means is you could essentially capture 4, ending up with 5 on that creature, and you've got the pip of amber. It does require you have to have a it's only onto the most powerful creature, so it's a little limited there. And I think the reason, of course, that this is on the most infamous card list is everything it comboed with 6 Amper Tyrannosaurus that said move all amber from the highest powered creature to your pool and destroy that creature. Things like Imperial Scutum that said this creature gains destroyed, move all amber from this creature to the common supply. Praefectus Ludo, which gave the same effect to all other creatures on the board. So often you could just take 4 amber and then either take it for yourself, spend it maybe with Calligraphy and Ideal, or just make sure it blows up and was never seen again. So Tribute was the way, and often on the same turn, to ensure that Amber did not see the opponent's pool ever again.
It was a powerful card, a really powerful card. Not on its own, greatness came from being part of a team.
Yes, and that team was at common and uncommon,
Mm.
and spread out. There was probably 5 or 6 cards that were enablers there. So
Yeah, yeah,
the team was strong and easy to find.
indeed, indeed. But neither of those cards won. Neither of those cards won
That's true.
because,
Tribute did not even receive any votes. Quixelstone got a single vote.
yeah. and receiving all of the other votes was Infernus, which,
Yes, deservedly.
considering the art on this is so repulsive to look at, I think it did very, very well and sits atop of many people's decks. Infernus is the 4-power demon creature in Dis that says play, purge up to 2 cards from a discard pile. Your opponent loses amber equal to the number of amber bonus icons on those purged cards. Powerful.
Yes, yeah, being able to purge cards from either discard pile is great because you can hit your own, you can hit your opponents. You're removing things for them to recur. If you're purging your own cards, that means you're getting the amber off of them and then having them lose that same amount of amber. So Infernus, and Infernus also just takes away the game plan, right? Because you can recur Infernus, you can get its effect to fire multiple times, you might have multiples of Infernus, and so you're going to have games where facing down against multiple Inferni that your game plan just gets taken apart. Say part of your game plan is to regrowth, your hunting witches and your witch of the eyes, but Infernus just, well, hey, I don't care that you're not losing amber, but I'm going to take away all your amber control or all your witches, so you can't get that back later or get it back after your deck flips. So yeah, very control heavy card. It exists in the game, so we've got to deal with it, but certainly creates states where you have to play less of your deck than you brought.
Yeah, and it also makes a lot of those Kota Rush decks that at the time were really everywhere. It makes them
Yes.
look quite average, particularly the ones that rely upon things like Fertility Chant, where you, you really end up with a large amber swing.
Right, right. And it really, unless you can spend that, with a key cheat, it really just turns it into a blank card. Yes, it's a big amber loss, but you are losing all that amber, and then the card leaves. So I think that's always that is a strong play. But that's one of my personal favorite thing to do is to play something with a bunch of amber pips myself and then purge it if I'm reasonably confident I wouldn't see it again, because then that's a pretty big amber swing, instead of just a net zero.
So there we have it. Infernus, the resounding winner of our first Call of Discovery Golden Compass. What is our next category, Zach?
Our next category for Worlds Collide is Best Art. We do love to celebrate the art and artists here on Call of Discovery, so we have selected a number of lovely cards, for our Best Art category.
So our first nomination for Best Art, Zach, is Manchego. And this is the card with beautiful art by Caravan Studio of a human thief in the shadows house. Looks like a Svar elf in the art, and so we're going to go with that. And it is just stunning. It's got a light drenched, and drenched is the right word for it because the rain is pouring down. Cityscape, a bit kind of almost like Japan, almost like Tokyo in Japan. And you see the light on the floor reflected, and just the color palette they're using, the oranges, the reds, the purples, the dark murky blues. It really just presents a whole scene, a whole feeling that you get. You get the sense of being there, if you know what I mean. It's just a stunning piece of art. It's a shame it's a rare because I'd love to see it in more decks, Zach.
Yeah, certainly. It's one of those narrow effects that you can't deny is good, right? Play Steel 2 with recursion. And the art is just so beautiful. It's colorful. There's a crosswalk. There's colors everywhere. It feels very much almost like a cyberpunk city. Manchego, placed in the middle of the scene, really does feel like that thief that is going to get away with 2 entire amber when the situation is right. When the deck is small and the lights are dim, Manchego does his cheesy work. The second card in the category is one of the cutest creatures in the Crucible, and quite capable of a chameleonic, outer dermis change. It's Moorwolf with art by Liga Smilshkalne. I hope I got that somewhat right. Of course, it is the card with this little fox-esque creature on top of a bit of a log. There is a fairy off in the corner, aghast at the change the Moor Wolf is going through, as its bright golden fur on the back half transition to kind of a smoky green to blend in with the leaves behind it. It also has the cheekiest smirk on its face that I've seen on any KeyForge card. It's definitely very proud of itself. And its little Moor Wolf pack, because these always appear in at least two in a deck in Worlds Collide Untamed.
And the final card in this nomination category of best art is the Star Alliance artifact Uncharted Lands, and this was by Alan Spiller. It is just a stunning piece of art with such scale and a beautiful color palette that we just had to include it. It essentially depicts. It's like the old Yu-Gi-Oh card Wall of Revealing Light, in that you've got these light sources across the sky. One can maybe assume it's some kind of energy source that the Star Alliance have found, some sustainable energy source, and there are these waterfalls going off into the abyss below. But just the sense of scale on this card is quite something.
It is. It's really stunning. It's a stunning landscape with the waterfalls pouring off and some structures coming out of the water. And like you said, the lights, there's almost what seems to be an ocean or a mountain range just under them, and then some more geometric shapes behind them. It really does feel mystical, uncharted, and expansive, which really also just speaks to the theme of the house, right? The theme of Star Alliance. They would go off into these uncharted lands and explore, and mechanically it rewards Star Alliance creatures for doing that, giving them an extra amber for reaping up to 6 that are placed on the card there, that they are exploring the Uncharted Lands and finding additional amber.
Honestly think, Zach, if we'd started Call of Discovery after Worlds Collide came out, it would probably be called Uncharted Lands.
That is a great name for a KeyForge like line of content. So if you're thinking about it and you haven't had a name yet and you want to take the jump, go ahead and call your thing Uncharted Lands. I would be absolutely lovely.
Oh hell yeah, absolutely, and likewise, actually, if we think of a cool episode category, Uncharted Lands would be a good shout.
Fantastic.
But who was our winner, Zach? Who did the patrons decide was truly the custodian of the best art for Worlds Collide?
Our winner, with over half of the total votes cast, is Uncharted Lands. Our Patreon subscribers just couldn't get past that beautiful sweeping vista, and honestly, it is a card that makes an impression on you when you see it, especially when you pull it in person. It's one of those you stop and you just pick up the card a little bit closer to get a better look at it. The others are lovely, but Uncharted Lands, I think, has that stop you in its tracks quality that gave it the victory here.
Indeed, it is a worthy winner, and it wins the latest Golden Call of Discovery Compass. And the next category is pushing design boundaries. This is the category where we look at a game that is already super duper innovative, and we say, well, how have the designers, the illustrious design team that we are very lucky to have, how have the designers pushed it further this time? What have they done that you really think, wow, I knew KeyForge was KeyForge, but this takes the biscuit? What are our nominees, Zach?
Our nominees in pushing design boundaries are, first of all, Quixel Stone from Star Alliance, showing up again. From Star Alliance, Exploro Rover, the creature that can turn into an upgrade. And then lastly, Senator Shrix, the poster child for spending amber off of your own creatures, usually exalted.
I think we've spoken a lot about Quixel Stone already, but this is really here because it made an impression. It was a real fun, game-changing effect that almost made KeyForge a little bit more synonymous with those types of effects being a thing. And again, building into that fun of discovery. They really, really changed the game. We talk a lot about the old Yu-Gi-Oh anime, I think, on this podcast, and it is like that when they say, "Hey, you thought you were going to be playing in this field. You're not. You're playing an entirely different game." And our heroes have to go, "Oh no, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm in dire straits again because I hadn't really thought about this. I never thought this was possible." And in KeyForge, you come up with these cards, and in Dark Tidings, it's the same. There are these cards that you've never thought of, that you've never even heard of, and you suddenly have to adapt your game playing to fit them, to kind of to do an optimal game in completely different parameters. So Quixelstone is definitely a worthy nominee for this area. And you mentioned about upgrades being cool now, Zach. What did you make of Explorover?
It gives a fun choice, right? Because it's a 3-power creature that can either just be a 3-power creature with a skirmish, or it can be an upgrade that gives something else a skirmish. So 3-power with skirmish is fine, nothing to write home about. But sometimes you do have a situation where you want it to be an upgrade, where you can essentially pay the cost of, I don't have this 3-power creature, instead I'm just giving skirmish to maybe something with a great fight effect, or I'm giving another upgrade to something with Light of the Archons that gives +1 power, +1 armor for every other upgrade on that creature. So I think it's less about how flashy Explorover is with that design boundary, and more of how it lived inside of Star Alliance, inside of KeyForge, right? Because we've had cards that can be two different things before. In other games, that's not new, but how that lives in the KeyForge ecosystem was generated lots of interesting choices there.
Mm-hmm. And our final card here, Senator Shrix, is a 4-power, 1 armor dinosaur politician. Yes, those two things happen together. Creature that says you may spend amber on Senator Shrix as if it were in your pool. And of course, you can play it and exalt it, and you can reap it and exalt it. So you can get amber on there, and you can spend it to forge keys, which is amazing, and something that, going into this set, no one really would have thought was going to be a key part of the game. And I think key here, and our listeners are probably screaming out that we have not yet mentioned one of the mechanics that came into this set, Ward. And Ward is the mechanic where when you ward a creature, any damage dealt to that creature, first you take off the ward before you take any damage off. And I think this card really shows where that ward was valuable. And even the 1 armor on this creature makes it really formidable. That ward means that you might not be able to get rid of a Senator Shrix. You might not be able to get rid of what the opponent wants to do and forge their key. And even if you do, you might have spent your whole turn doing that and not doing what you want to do, which means that they ultimately win. So this is a really powerful value card that really makes use of ward.
Yes, that was certainly got a big benefit from Ward, and was a great example of how powerful exalting could be. But Ed, who did our lovely Patreon subscribers pick as the card that was pushing design boundaries in KeyForge and Worlds Collide?
Well, I'm happy to say, Zach, that it wasn't a complete whitewash. All of the cards here got some nominations, got some votes, but the winner was still pretty resoundingly Quixelstone.
Yes, Quixelstone definitely maybe could not exist or would be a much more broken card in a couple of other games where your creatures are directly what, often can generate your win con. Creatures are a little less direct to the win con in KeyForge. Well, maybe not in all instances. That might be an overgeneralization. However, overwhelmingly Quixelstone pushing design boundaries certainly causes a lot of change and interacts with KeyForge's ebb and flow with creatures in a very interesting way.
And next we have a new category. Yes, we never like to stay entirely still here on Call of Discovery. This new category is called If Only. And it is essentially what could have been an incredible card, but really, unfortunately, wasn't because of either the set it was put into and the cards around it, or maybe just it needed a bit of design tweaking to become that awesome card. So these are cards that we love, but we wish we really loved even more. And what are the nominees for this category, Zach?
Well, the first card in this competition from House Logos, Data Forge, then from House Saurian, Imperial Forge. So both both cards that let you forge and forge. They give you an increased cost and then let you lessen that cost based on something. Data Forge having cards in hand, Imperial Forge being amber on creatures. And then lastly, from Brobnar, we have Aegon the Terrible, of course, always being paired with Aegon the Green. The cards I think we've discussed in a few places. Aegon the Green, when it's destroyed, it gets purged, and then it allows you to play Aegon the Terrible, who can't get played unless Aegon the Green is purged. And Aegon the Terrible being kind of this jaded Beck from the Wars version of Aegon the Green, who just wants to steal and pillage. So very interesting design, but sadly not very effective in a game.
Well, yeah, it ended up being quite an apt name, didn't it, really, Zach? The Aegon was really just quite terrible.
Indeed, yeah, that's true. That's true. It was such a fun idea, but it would have needed a few more tweaks to be as good as we all wanted it to be based on the flavor.
Yes, yeah, it's one of those cards that you really love what they're going for. A Viking going away and coming back. It's because the evolution of Pokemon almost on a card, but it doesn't. It's just not. It's just not there in the mechanics. Perhaps the designers were worried it would be too strong and wanted to pull it back. But it's something that we've seen much better implementations of in the past two sets, the ones that came after Worlds Collide.
Certainly. And then its other two companions in this category, right, are both key cheats that reduce their cost based on something their house generally wants to do. But this is a generalization, of course. There are decks that pull them off with good regularity. However, most of the time when you would see these, the deck would have a difficult time to actually pull them off as a key cheat. I think we've especially seen that in Data Forge and future sets is actually fires much more often. Imperial Forge actually in Dark Tidings fires much more regularly than it did in Worlds Collide. So in this set, in Worlds Collide, these two key cheats just didn't have enough support to really be huge threats. You definitely wanted to be aware of them, but you weren't going to start sweating as soon as you saw them on a deck list, that's for sure.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think that's why these are here, because people really wanted Data Forge to be that fun card that they can actually use. But understandably, the design was maybe restrained a bit because it could have broken the game if it was too strong. So it is entirely understandable. But the votes on these were a little bit more split. There weren't many votes for Imperial Forge, but it was a tight race between Data Forge and Aegon. But Aegon took it in the end. So Aegon, we love you, but we just don't want to play you.
It's true. And I think Aegon winning is just really a testament to how much we wanted Aegon the Green and Aegon the Terrible to be really good.
Yes.
We absolutely, I mean, it's been the subject of podcasts across ours and Help from Future Self and a few others, maybe even the KFPL Weekly podcast, but like everybody has just lamented that the card wasn't better. We just wanted it to be better. And for our final category, we have the category called Difficult Decisions. These are cards that when you look at them in your hand, you go, ooh, do I play it? Where do I play it? How do I play it? When do I choose to activate it? Oh, bother. And then you just throw your cards down and walk away because smoke is coming out of your ears. So Ed, who are brain-melting nominees for Difficult Decisions?
Our brain-melting nominees for Difficult Decisions are Fangtooth Cavern, the Untamed Artifact, Gambling Den, the Shadows Artifact, and everybody's favorite creature?
Okay.
We haven't spoken about Brobnar. We can speak about Brobnar right now. Meganarp.
Oh, Meganarp. Oh, Meganarp. I do think Narp gets a bit of a bad rap, but yes, it is a hard decision about whether or not to even play the dang thing.
I think this was probably a bit of a sarcastic inclusion from myself. This is a bit of the British humour here. You know, the number of cards I could have included in the shortlist here, and I just went with Meganarp because it is such a bad card. It's funny.
I will say, being mega, that brings it to a 10 power 1 armor creature that says Mega Narp's neighbors cannot reap. I will say 10 power 1 armor is at least worth considering. Now, you might shoot yourself in the foot, right? If a reap gets turned off later, if your enemy messes with your battle line a bit. But 10 power 1 armor isn't anything to sneeze at. That's for sure. That's for sure. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's a hard decision.
You heard it here first. Call of Discovery. Zach is a NARP apologist.
Hey, at least the NARP deck learning system, that's for sure.
NARP.
But yeah, fake. Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, we'll have to link. Apologies to Ed. That composition by Karen Brown in the show notes. But Fangtooth Cavern and Gambling Den, definitely hard decisions. Fangtooth Cavern, very much the decision of whether or not to play it, because it will destroy the least powerful creature at the end of the owner's turn every turn. So, playing it is a choice. And then also, what creatures do you do or do not play going forward based on what might blow up the Fangtooth Cavern. And then Gambling Den, of course, lets you, if you want to, at the beginning of your turn, pick a house, and then you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it matches, you gain 2 amber, but if it doesn't match, you lose 2 amber. So it really is a Gambling Den, and does that before your Forge a Key step, so you can actually go from 4 to 6 amber and Forge a Key if you are either a bit of a cheater, and by that I mean, right, you've planned on what's on top of your deck, or if you are just trying to be lucky.
Indeed. It is a really cool card. It's very KeyForge and very Shadows. And
yes,
I like that they included it because of that. Fangtooth Cavern, I've become a victim of many times, playing it and then realizing that my deck is full of smaller creatures and losing the game as a result. It is not something that I've learned my lesson on yet, Zach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a skill tester. It's a skill tester for sure. For sure. The deck definitely needs to have a Fangtooth Cavern plan. And you also need to look at what's in your opponent's deck. Even if you have medium-sized creatures, if your opponent just has big creatures, then you might be out of luck.
Indeed. And Mega Narp wins. No, Mega
Not
Narp doesn't
quite.
win. It's a shame, because I don't think. But the one thing we've been remiss of not saying is Brobnar probably aren't winning any awards in Worlds Collide. In fact, I think it became a bit of a joke for Worlds Collide.
They did take home the If Only prize with Igon the Terrible.
Yes, of course they did. Yes,
they did,
and also. Yeah, if you're playing Reversal, then Brobnar in Worlds Collide is fantastic, and it's really worth looking at your Brobnar Worlds Collide decks, because you might have a real gem in there for Reversal.
Yep. The more slimy jarks you've got, the more of a gem it is.
Indeed.
So, we've spoiled that Mega Narp has not taken home the Golden Compass for difficult decisions, Ed. But who does? Who does take home that Golden Compass?
Well, Zach, I think it was a difficult decision for our Patreons, and they not one that they could grapple with, because it looks like we have a tie between Fangtooth Cavern and Gambling Den for this award.
Wow!
Which means I am getting
that was a difficult decision.
It was a difficult decision. I'm getting the chainsaw of discovery out, and I'm going to saw the Golden Compass of Discovery, because chainsaws can saw through gold, right? In perfect half, so that the compass can point to due north for both Fangtooth Cavern and Gambling Den.
Yes, congratulations to both hilariously difficult to parse artifacts. Definitely.
Indeed. I think that pretty much sums things up for our Setrospective on Worlds Collide. Ultimately, it's a set that I had a lot of fun with, and I think will continue to have a lot of fun with in months and years to come. Certainly, there are still decks I've got from that set that I probably haven't explored to their full potential, and I may even pick up another display here and there if I can, mindful that they might be a little harder to get hold of in, again, the months and years to come.
Yeah, Yeah, I think Worlds Collide was a great set. And like I said before, I just want to reiterate it was the set that I think for me and a lot of other people really solidified that this game was going to have a long life strategically, both from a deck choice perspective when you're an Archon, and also just from a matchup, an in game matchup perspective. After these decks came and showed that Coda Rush couldn't just play regular old Coda Rush, it had to be a bit smarter. You needed more removal, and you need to be a bit more careful, and yeah, you need to be able to kill several eddies. Dear listener, thank you so much for joining us for our Setrospective on Worlds Collide, looking back to this awesome set that for me really sealed the deal with KeyForge being a game with a long future and a lot of fun strategic gameplay in Worlds Collide and all the way ahead, which I'm happy to say I think the future sets have been doing well with as well. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you are enjoying Call of Discovery, make sure to be subscribed on your podcast app of choice so that you get notified every time we drop a new episode. Remember, we are weekly or fortnightly, which would be every other week. So make sure to watch out for every time those episodes drop. If you're new to KeyForge, make sure to visit the new player guide on the website Archon Arcana. It's the KeyForge wiki linked below, run by the community, where you can get your own unique journey started in this wonderful game. If you are looking to support us monetarily, please check out our Patreon linked below. You can sign up to support us monthly, and you can enjoy rewards like being a part of our exclusive Discord, like you heard all of our patrons voting today in all these categories. You also get access to Beyond Discovery, our little sideshow where we go behind the scenes on Call of Discovery, goof around a little bit, talk about the business of the podcast, the past and future, and other things that you just don't get on the main show. Do let us know what you'd like to see more or less of in future shows by interacting with us across social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or just send us a plain old email at podcast@callofdiscovery.com. But most importantly, more than all that, listener, if you think a friend would enjoy this podcast, please help them to discover it. Have you answered the call of discovery?
Oh no, Ed, you absolute fool.